He's dope. He's a genius. He's responsible for one of the greatest albums of all time, Word Life. He's OC, and I want to welcome him to allhiphop.com presents The Library with Tim Einenkel. OC, thank you so much for being here. It's an honor.
Thank you. Once again, my friend.
Man, what's up, man? What's up? So let's start from, we're both from New York City. I grew up in Washington Heights. You grew up in Brooklyn. Can you take us back to the time when you were growing up in Brooklyn in the 70s and 80s? And what was that like first versus now? But also, when did you become first aware of hip hop culture and what becomes this amazing movement?
Well, I grew up in Brooklyn and Queens, but I became aware of the whole scene in Brooklyn. Block parties. Excuse me. I had family in Vanderveer projects downtown. Flatbush in the Ville. I seen Divine Sounds bring out their system when I was a kid in Bed-Stuy. I was just exposed to it from a kid, from a child, and it always fascinated me, you know what I'm saying? And the thing that fascinated me the most was the second man behind the ropes. And it wasn't, the MC wasn't first. He was the guy that hyped up, the DJ. But I wanted to be that. I wanted to be the guy behind the mic, talking to the people. And it seemed like besides people being fascinated with the DJ playing music, people was more fascinated as well with the guy that had the mic in his hand. And the DJ only introduced guys, from what I saw, and I called as a kid, they only introduced people on the mic. So that was special, so to speak. So you couldn't touch that mic for a DJ if you wasn't, up to par for him.
Mm. So when did you start? I mean, when did that start happening for you? When did you become the guy with the mic? When did you start writing and kind of knowing you were good at what you were doing?
The writing part came later. I was, like I said, I lived in Bushwick, Brooklyn from early 80s, late 70s to early 80s, and then from the I moved to Jamaica, Queens in probably 84, 83, 84. And I moved to Southside Jamaica, Queens. And, the music was always with me, but the writing part came when I moved across the street from a big guy at the time, whose name is Pharoahe. You know what I'm saying? That's what people come to know him today. And dude was heavy, same demeanor as he has today. The same guy you see today is the same guy I knew in the past when I met him. But he was just a little heavier. And today he's on some in shape shit. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, Pharoahe really introduced me to the art of writing.
Yeah, it's funny. It's think about Pharoahe's going from heavy to thin to heavy, and I think I saw Black Star concert once in Central Park, and Talib Kweli has a line where he kind of plays with it, where he goes, getting heavy again, getting fatter again, getting slimmer again, and fatter again, and slimmer again, like Pharoahe Monch.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yo, it's weird, man. Like, this dude, to me, in my mind, he was way better when he was heavier, but it was just a mind thing. I was used to seeing him that way. So, when he really got in shape, you know what I'm saying? I used to mess with him and tell him it affected his emceeing, his voice and his. But I was just kidding with him and teasing him because I wasn't used to seeing that transformation. So, over time, he just turned into an Adonis. You know what I'm saying? Like, he got muscles now.
Right. Yeah.
As opposed to how he used to look.
Let's go a little earlier. You you eventually linked up with the DITC. What were you doing kind of slightly prior to that? But then how did you cross their paths, and what was that connection like?
Well, like I said, Pharoahe lived across the street from me, so I'm seeing their process of making music. They wasn't even organized at the moment. There was a group called STP, Simply Too Positive, which consisted of him and Prince Pope. And I was their underling and training, so I'm watching everything go on, you know what I'm saying? And leading up to the moment of when, I did the record Fudge Pudge on their debut album, and their name change, and the Walt Disney record deal, and because for people that don't know, they signed to Hollywood Basic, which was a subsidiary of Walt Disney. Walt Disney had a record label, and they used to just basically tell me don't sound like them. They used to scrutinize me over what I sound like, finding my own voice and stuff like that. And this is later on when I met Prince too. But the process of watching them do what they do and revolutionize a style of emceeing and writing, it blew me away. So obviously being young, I was influenced by them. And I remember them telling me all the time, Prince was more outspoken. So he used to be like, that's whack. Like, you sound like us. You're supposed to have your own voice. Like, don't sound like us. And that shaped and molded me into having thick skin and basically getting upset to understanding what they meant by that. So, 91 was a debut for me on a record called Fudge Pudge, and the rest is history.
When did you think about starting to kind of create a whole album? And obviously we get one of the greatest albums of all time, Word Life. But when did you think about writing for that? And were you still kind of, I guess maybe sharing, I don't know, your lyrics with them, or kind of bouncing ideas off of them as you were writing, Word Life?
Right. I didn't think about the album at the time because I didn't even see past me. I was doing demos on my own, but I didn't see past me doing what happened after. But it's still like surreal for me. So, I mean, if you remember, the first single was called "Who Stole the Last Piece of Chicken." So, it just turned out the second single was Fudge Pudge, and they was shooting a video for it, and I was included, and that's when it started to hit me. That's when I started thinking about, damn, can I do this? Can I really try to do an album? You know what I'm saying? Even though in the back of my mind, probably, I was shooting for that or subconsciously, but I really didn't know. I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't take it that serious.
When you think about the track Time's Up, and Buckwild has talked about how you see that track, and that's really shows how you are a great songwriter, and a lot of artists don't know that today, how to actually be songwriters. Did you, after you wrote Time's Up, did you feel that way about yourself in terms of, this is the track that's showing how great of a songwriter that I am? Or did you feel that about other maybe records that were on Word Life that maybe are not spoke about as much today?
I didn't think about I didn't know what being a great songwriter meant at the time, or whatever people call it. All I know is Time's Up was the beat. The actual joint was Pharoahe's record.
Right.
And I snatched the CD from him. Monch was already Pharoahe Monch, so people was throwing him tracks. Like, everybody else around Monch was like obsolete. Anybody who got in front of Pharoahe to do a song with Pharoahe. So anyway, this guy named Prestige, who produced on Word Life as well, came with the loop, and he gave Monch the CD. I heard it, and for some reason, I was just drawn to it. I didn't know what it was at the time. I didn't know the sample at the time, none of that. And it was just like, damn, this is different. Now, here's the key that I did know. When you listen to a KRS-One, when you listen to a Chuck D, when you listen to a Slick Rick, a G-Rap, a Kane, a Rakim, their debut records was something special. And I don't think they planned it, but you had to make an impact with your first record. Mm-hmm. And that's what I felt with Time's Up when I heard that loop, when I heard the sample loop, and I was like, damn. So I seen where he torched the CD, and I was like, yo, what you gonna do with that joint? He was like, what joint? You know, what are you talking about? And I was like, that joint Prestige gave you. And he was like, I ain't listened to it yet. So he kept blowing it off every week. I ain't listened to it yet until I figured out every day I came to his house, it's right there. So I know, the next time he say that to me, I'm gonna just snatch the CD and ask Bucky what it is. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah.
I don't want to jump the gun, but prior to all of that, I had met Digging, a couple of members of Digging on the Source tour, which Pharoahe and Prince took me on after we released Fudge Pudge and the video was out and the momentum was gaining. I got a chance to go on the very first Source tour, and that's where I met Finesse, and that's where I met Buckwild. And circling back around, I was already friends with him after that tour, and me and Buck was demoing stuff. And I asked him, did he know what that record was after I lifted the CD from Monch? And he was like, yeah, I know exactly what that is. And he hooked it up, and the rest is history.
I mean, obviously the line, and we talked about the more emotion I put into it, the harder I rock has been sampled by a lot of people, a lot of artists. When you, so I can't write lyrics to save my life. So when you hear a lyric like that, you're like, oh my God, that's amazing, genius. When you write a lyric like that, I mean, is that, did you kind of figure that's going to be the lyric that people stood out on that record to you, or, would be sampled in the long run?
Well, outside of having confidence, you don't know what people are going to like. Like, as well as I do, for anything having to do with entertainment, once you put yourself out there, you open to everything. Criticism, scrutiny, I like it, I don't like it. So I didn't know what people would think about the record. It was so awkward. And it was a couple of mistakes on there that turned out to work in my favor. I couldn't do 3 verses on the record because, that was all I could write. Or that's all I felt. So hence the 2-verse theory. Not too many people did that. And I just didn't know what people was gonna think about that record. I know I didn't like it after it was, not that I didn't like it, but I felt like it wasn't finished. And it took Search, it took Buck, it took Finesse, it took OG, it took all these guys saying, yo, you bugging the F out, man. Like, this is crazy. Especially Search. Search was more excited for the record than I was. And I just didn't see it at the time.
I mean, I think the great thing about you research for the music you do, and knowing you have an influence over, samples on the album and stuff like that, on music. This, the scratches on Time's Up, always stand out to me. And Rock Raider is the guy who does it. How did he get on the track, and then how did y'all connect, and what was it a conversation about putting scratches on it, or did he just said, here, do what you got to do?
Well, I hadn't I don't believe I met Rock Raider at that moment. I think he had just won the DMC. He was already DJing for A couple of guys in the crew, showing AG, I believe, Finesse, and he had a relationship with Bucky and them. And like I said, I didn't know him very well at that moment, but Buck was like, "Yo, after I told him, yo, we need to add this Slick Rick record," he was like, "Won't somebody scratch it in or fly it in?" And that's when he put in the call of Rock Raider. He had a relationship with Rock Raider already, and we got that Raider, and he came in and did that, and he ended up doing the scratches on Times Up and Ozone as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest is history, man. He was family. You know what I'm saying? He was our in-crew DJ, and not to jump ahead so fast, but his protege turned out to be our DJ as well after he passed away, which is Boogie Blind. So, I miss Raider because he was a hell of a show DJ. You know what I'm saying? And a hell of a DJ within himself. He's a grandmaster. You know what I mean? For real, for real. He was crowned that by the other grandmasters. And I just wish he had more time on this earth to, run around with us and do what we do and do I want to and stuff like that.
It's true. You mentioned the Slick Rick sample. Obviously, Slick Rick, probably the one album as a 10-year-old I memorized by heart. Who chose Slick Rick and why that choice?
I chose him, and I mean, if people don't know by now, Slick Rick is my number one, artist. Like today, that Great Adventures of Slick Rick record stands the test of time. Like, I can't even go into it. We'll be on here too long. We'll probably go over the time talking about Rick's album. But just the genius in him, even till today, like he has a timeless voice, a timeless aura about him. You know what I'm saying? And I was just a Slick Rick fan, man. He taught me so much with that album. I can't even begin, like, thank this guy for existing, because he really gave a lot of artists, a vision, not be afraid to do what they do. He's the reason for a lot of people being visionaries in their rhymes.
Was that album kind of, or was there an album that also helped you understand that you yourself as an artist coming up could complete or make a full album?
The Great Adventures album definitely did it for me, but the Word Life whole theme, how can I say it? Yo, Rakim, Paid in Full. Rakim is the blueprint for all of us. Contrary to what people think. Like, I don't think a lot of us would exist if it wasn't for Rakim. Like, he put the thought and the cool and it's cool to be super intelligent and express that. And, I mean, if you listen to early Eric B. and Rakim, he was so cool and fly. He made you seem like he cursed in his music, and he didn't. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right, yeah.
Follow, thinking of a master plan, because there's nothing but sweating. I thought he was just he exuded cool, and OC, Mike Geronimo, Royal Flush, Nas. It's a bunch of us that probably wouldn't, sound the way we sound if dude didn't lay that blueprint down.
So, I think don't think our generation, but I think maybe a lot of the younger generation will look at your debut album and ask, where are the features? Why aren't there any features on this album? So was there talk about having features for this album? Or did you just want to be, this is my debut album, it's just going to be me and me alone?
I mean, I had a feature. Like I said, I come from the Searchlight music camp, so obviously it was me and Nas in that camp early on, and Nas basically didn't show up for a session for that album. Me and Buck had a record called Mega Hard that was supposed to feature Nas on Word Life, and he just never showed up. And I was mad back then. I ain't even gonna front, but in hindsight, dude had the city on his back. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I wasn't the only guy he stood up anyway. You know what I'm saying? So I believe he walked out of a Biggie session. Jay tried to get at him. So, everything happens for a reason, man. I'm glad. I wish he did, because it would have just left a piece of history, in hip hop that, would have just been crazy to see and hear. But I'm glad he didn't, because I think it was a proving ground for me with my peers. I don't think people really was trying. I can't say people wasn't trying to see me do my thing. I don't think people was convinced yet. And I was just like, from there on out, I was like, I don't need features on my records unless I really chase them.
I think Buckwild talks about how after your record did catch eyes of people. So after hearing Times Off, Puffy wanted to have a conversation with you and even potentially sign you. Did that conversation ever happen? And just envisioning, I don't know, for me, envisioning back then OC on at Bad Boy, I don't know, it doesn't connect too well. But I mean, was that something that if he said, "Hey, here's the contract, let's go," would you have ran with that?
I mean, contrary to what people think about Puff, right? And I have my own personal feelings in the sense of, from a music standpoint. Dude was like our Quincy Jones, right? So I could recall around this time being on the road with Craig Mack and Big on some dates. So, damn, man, both of them going, that's crazy. I remember doing shows with Craig Mack and him. He had the biggest record in for you know what I'm saying? Like Flavor in Your Ear was a monster. Like it was a phenomenon, right? His big Juicy was gold already. This is what people don't understand. But Craig Mack was the man on Bad Boy. So fast forward to where I'm going with this. I remember a couple of times, being wet behind the ears. Craig was getting so much work. He would be like, "Yo, let me go on before you because I got to run to Rhode Island." And that was a mistake, man, because he would do this shit twice and tear the house down. And basically, couple shows me and Big didn't perform because people wasn't trying to see us. You know what I'm saying? And that's how the whole Puffy thing correlates. So I believe Puff, being the genius within himself he is, he seen something in me. We had a meeting. He told me he was gonna remix my whole album. I was like, nah. And he basically like, get out of his office. And I was like, cool. And I never forget that moment because he had some big glass panes that was clear, so clean and clear. I ran into a glass pane and the whole office turned around and was like, what the? Because I could see the glass, you know what I'm saying? So I startled the whole office, but I ran into that pane due to him kicking me out of his office, basically, like, there's really nothing else to talk about if you don't want me to redo your record. And I was like, well, I'm out.
Were you at that time, you saying you're not going to remix my record? Did you feel that was more of a negotiation tactic on your end, and with hope that he'd be like, don't worry about it. Okay, we'll sign you anyway. Or was it something else behind it?
Yeah, exactly. And in hindsight, I don't think Joe had a super Fat Joe had a super relationship with him yet. But in hindsight, I should have, kept that note to myself when it discussed it with a couple of people and then got back to him. You know what I'm saying? But, at the end of the day, it wasn't destined for me to be over it. That's all that was. And I'm glad, it was a learning experience, to sit in front of a guy like that. And, the rest is just like whatever.
Well, you talked about the 94 class, and obviously there's Biggie, there's you, there's J. Rule, there's
Raekwon, Ghostface,
all these, the late Big L. You have all these.
Big L.
Well, first, what is it about this class that, like, what's in the water that you guys are drinking that kind of made this class happen? And do you think 94 was maybe possibly the best hip hop class ever in hip hop?
I don't know. 94, 95 was two years that was just hell up in Harlem. Like it, I don't know what was going on. You got to look back prior to 94. Redman, Wu. I mean, just Wu as a whole, not when they started branching off yet. You had so many dudes on the West Coast. You had Dre and Snoop. You had, it'll never be a class like that. Right. And I'm not knocking the young dudes or the young people, but yeah, it was something in the water. It was something in the water. You had producers. It produced so many, not beat makers, but producers. That's iconic today. Think about that. And, my crew is part of that. As far as a lot of the music that people hear from early 90s, mid 90s into the late 2000s is you dancing to digging music or remixes. That's a hell of a thing that, like, I can say that now, like, damn, like, we was a big part of that.
Mm-hmm. I want to turn to the DITC crew, but more importantly, I want to talk about the late Big L. 2019 DITC Studios Volume 2 was released, and then on one of the tracks you talk about, you made sure to salute Big L. You and Big L collaborated on a track called "Dangerous" off your single off your album called "Jewels." You also collaborated on "Get Yours," which was on the last Black Mass soundtrack.
Yep.
I was trying to figure out because I couldn't find it. But well, first, what collaboration came first, the "Get Yours" or the "Dangerous"? And then, what was kind of the hope behind these collaborations for you and Big L? I mean, were you hoping to? Was the plan for you to do an album together or, do more singles together?
No plan. It was just, I had a vision for the Dangerous record. Like I said, the DITC producers being big, I was like, yo, it's a Park Jam record. It's a classic Park Jam record that DJs would spin. And I just had an idea and, the crew would touch it. You know what I'm saying? They was like, nah. And then I stepped to Walt. Mr. Walt from Beat Miners is super duper outspoken. He was like, hell no. But then I wrote him a check and he was like, hell yeah, no. Come on, why you gonna do this to me? It's like, you don't want the check, I'll give it to somebody else. And he snatched the check. He was like, man, listen. But yeah, that was just an idea, you know what I'm saying? And actually, after that show, seeing the vision of me and L collaborating and doing a full LP together. Like, I guess he's seen what came out of Dangerous and how easy we put the verses together and stuff like that. And Get Yours was one of those records that we was starting to put the album together with. I didn't know the we didn't know what the group name was gonna be, anything. It was just straight off the cutting room floor, and you know, let's put these records together. And then unfortunately, you know, L gets murdered.
Right. And is that the story? Is that part of the story that you tell off of Real Life, off the album Same Moon, Same Sun, where you talk about waiting for Big L in studio because you have an idea for something and he just never shows up? Was that kind of what was happening?
Yeah, I was working on, I was just working on music after that, and had another idea. Me and L had a chemistry. Obviously, we all had chemistry of some sort with each other in the crew. But you know, I believe me and him the youngest in the crew, so we're more close to what I consider like just not bouncing things off each other, just knowing we can make things happen as far as music. And yo, I'll never forget, man. I waited in the studio in D&D for him. I had time booked, and he never showed up. And that wasn't his MO, but I was still mad because I had to pay for the session and all that. Not thinking the worst. I wasn't thinking the worst about him. You know what I'm saying? And I remember him never showing up. I'm calling his phone. I'm beeping him at the time. He's not answering back. And you know, I was parked in front of D&D. I hopped in my car. I was going through the Midtown Tunnel. I believe I was listening to M.O.P. And I got home. I was living in damn, where was I? I was living on East Parkway somewhere in Brooklyn. And when I got to the house, you know, my wife was like, yo, she just had a look of death on her face. And I was like, God. And she basically was like, L, so I got two L's in my group, in my crew, Lord Finesse and Big L. So I'm like, Ness? You know what I'm saying? She was like, mm-mm. She was like, L's gone. And I'm like, gone. Like, and I just stood there stunned. I believe it was I dropped my keys on the table, and I think I picked them up, threw them at the wall. It was a bottle of Bacardi on the mantle, and I just got to work on that bottle, and you know, I was just distorted.
You know, Big L gets killed, and obviously he's not just a artist that you've collaborated. He's obviously you guys are all friends. I mean, you know, DITC, right. It's a collective, a true collective of friends. Right. How did his murder deflate, I guess, the momentum that you guys, the DITC, was trying to build? I mean, was there ever talk about, hey, maybe we just need to take a break, or maybe some of us need to go separate ways? Or do you feel it made you guys kind of stronger as a collective?
Nah, it deflated the momentum that we were building up. You know, I believe around this time, I mean, we didn't know at the time, but you know, L gets murdered. Then I believe prior to that, Finesse's grandmother passes away. So, you know, Ness is in a funk, and then this happens to L. Now, mind you, we all got love and we love L, but Ness discovered this guy. You know what I'm saying? This is his protege. And then I believe after that, Showbiz mom, well, we didn't know at the time. He found out she was sick. He kept that under wraps. You know, so it was like a cloud, man. It was just a black cloud over us. And, you know, contrary to what everybody feel, you know, Terror Squad, all them we family, we all family. So now, you know, things is happening. L dies. A couple of years after that, Pun dies. A couple of years after that, Pharoahe dies. Like, it's, you know, guys behind the scenes that's around us is getting murdered. it's just so many things going on. And yeah, to answer your question, we should have taken a break from each other, because it caused a little confusion, just because we didn't know how to deal with death and feelings, of that nature, and how to express ourselves, because it didn't feel right for me for a while.
I want to step back a little bit, because I know because there's a story you've told, an interview I was listening to, about the Jules tour and bringing Big L on tour with you. And what was great about it for you was that you really got to watch him develop as this MC, this artist, and he kind of you've watched him kind of go through his baggage lyrics and pull out some stuff that just blew you away. Can you talk about that tour with him and watching him develop as an artist, but then also was he that artist that made you step up your lyrical game, your bag of tricks?
Of course. And I mean, you hear the interviews today, or see the words being written about him. Nas, all these guys was like, yo, when this dude came through, now here's the thing, people didn't understand. Like, we was on the road together promoting Wells, and Flamboyant was already a thought, and more than a thought. Remember, he wasn't signed to Columbia anymore, so now he's thinking independent. He's doing different collaborations. He's messing around with Lost Boys. He's running down south. He's just making his rounds, and I believe at this point, he's having conversations with Dane, about the Flamboyant thing. But in that time, I'm seeing him pin some of the stuff to Ebonics. He's giving me lines. We on the plane, we out for like a month, 2 months overseas, and he's telling me lines, and I'm like, man, I don't want to hear that shit, man. I'm tired. Let me hear it later. And I heard Ebonics, some of the lyrics to Ebonics. Think about how that record is put together. Like, he didn't just do that overnight. If you listen to it, like, it's a perfect rhyme. It's a perfect song. Like, it's a perfect concept. And
right.
I just seen it coming together. We all seen it. Like, he was about to branch off and do his own thing.
You think about the history that's being written about Big Al, and then I have to ask you about this movie that's being made about him, the Big Al Put It On Big Al movie. What are your thoughts about the movie being made about him? I mean, is it something you approve of, I guess, in a way?
Nah, it's nothing that I have nothing to do with it, but you can't do a Big L. Well, from my opinion, you can't do a Big L movie, documentary, anything fully without Finesse. Finesse is the key. If Finesse ain't involved, it's something I won't touch. Not because I'm not respecting what these other guys are doing for whoever's doing it, but they try to contact me to do it. I even seen a character that supposedly playing me, and I'm like, he looks nothing like me. It's not conducive to who I am and what Diggin is and what L is in my mind. But you cannot do anything without first sitting down with Finesse, because that's where the history starts in the music business for Big L, with Finesse.
I want to you've obviously done so much, and you've collaborated with so many people, but you've also been in kind of one-off groups, and but I have to ask you about Crooklyn Dodgers. It's the there's 3 installments, I guess, of it, of them, and each trio have done kind of the one single tracks. How did the Crooklyn Dodgers project for you come about, and why was it only one track per installment?
That I don't know. All I know, when we was asked to do it, I believe that was a Bill Stephanie premiere conversation, Spike conversation, because they was doing the soundtrack to it, or slated to do the soundtrack for it. And when I was called to be in on it, I thought about the Ace Buckshot Special Ed record produced by Q-Tip, and I was like, there's no topping that. Like, some things are just special, right? So, I didn't see the vision of Crooklyn Dodgers 2, and I just didn't see it, because it was, to me, that song was just a ill record. You know what I'm saying? Besides, the players on it, it was just an incredible record. But I know Preem, you know what I'm saying? And I didn't understand what Preem was going to do, knowing who DJ Premier is. And, looking back in hindsight now, he did what DJ Premier does. And, I believe he was the one that was like, yo, I can get these guys, and this is my vision. And, Preem made that happen along with a couple of other people, and, the rest is history. And Chubb Rock is a monster. Like, I never forget that session. Me and Rue came in. Chubb was, I guess, doing some other stuff. He went first. It took him about 10, 15 minutes. He talked like this and that, blah, 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 and he was out. And me and Rue was like, oh, shit, what just happened? And we looked at each other, and we was like, yo, Preem, we coming back tomorrow, because what he just did, well, I'm not even surprised. Chubb is one of my favorite artists as well, and penologist. So, he blew us away real quick and was like, I gotta go and this and that, and see you later, fellas. Boom. And the next time I seen him was at the video shoot. You know what I'm saying?
That impression is amazing, by the way.
Oh, Chubb, yeah, that's how you talk. Like, what up, OC? It's like, wow.
We talk about you, and we talk about cosigns, and not just from fans or respected hip hop journalists. We also talk about artists, and Billy Dance has talked about you being on Down for Whatever, and you think about M.O.P. and all the features they've had prior to that record, right? And you were the first feature that they went after. Well, when at the time did you know that you were this first feature that they were going after, and how did that collaboration come together?
Hell, well, we were always in the studio together all the time. We all frequent D&D. It was always Bill, Fame, Lays, Fox, Flip, Tef, us, Jay, Big, Nas. This was normal. The whole Duck Down, this was something normal. But by that time I was already fans, but it was normal to buzz me in, and it would probably be Fame opening the door for you or something. It was just normal shit to us. But I never in a million years thought, to stand next to them on a record. You know what I'm saying? Like, them dudes, I think people don't get a gist of who M.O.P. is, as far as, artists. Like, yeah, they talk hard shit, but them dudes is lyricists, man. Like, they you talking about visual pictures and stuff like that. Like, these dudes paint pictures of exactly what Brownsville is, their neighborhood, and and I've seen the growth in them over time. Like, I've seen the growth from them being in their hoods and then traveling. You can tell through their music. So for them to ask me to get on that record, I was like, nah, y'all bullshit. And they was like, yeah, like set it off. I'm like, set off a record for M.O.P. Come on, man. Like these dudes, I tried to give that energy and they was like, nah, just do you. That's why we got you. Like, come on, old
Nice.
big bro, do your OC shit. That's it. That's what we want. And that's exactly what I gave him.
Yeah, I've always joked about how if I was able to just like hook up some wires to a lyricist's brain and figure out what the hell they're doing, it would be Pharoahe Monch. But also, doing research on you and hearing stories about how your mind works as a lyricist, I wish I could hook up your brain with wires and you kind of watch you do this writing process. And then I think about the track Beyond off of the DJ JS1 project Ground Original, where there's a scratch Beyond the Walls of Intelligence by Nas. And my understanding is that you kind of wrote around based on that beat, based on that scratch. Is that something, well, one, how do you do that? But two, is that something that for you normally do? You hear a track and you're like, and you, from some other artist, you think about the sample and then you kind of, all right, I could play with that. I could write around that.
Yeah, Prince and Monch definitely taught me to, it's like, that's some school shit. When you get a book report and a topic, that's exactly where it comes from. And Monch and Prince taught me how to expound on that. But part of that is the learning process we had growing up in school. You already know, Tim, like we had to go to the library. It wasn't, a computer was a privilege back then. A big ass IBM. We didn't, it wasn't just letting you on no computers, you know what I'm saying? But
I try to tell my kids that they don't
basically.
listen.
Yeah, they don't, it's not that far. I try to, we not that old. Like,
I
we're
know.
not old. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, Prince and Monch taught me how to expound on the topic and turn a whole word into a whole movie, so to speak. And Pharoahe was he's some other dude, man. Dude is my hero. Like, he's a beyond genius. Like, he transcends what I consider a writer, especially with this, not to jump off topics, but this new project, like yo, dude, you transcend it. Like, and I only feel I feel that way about a couple of people, and him and Apathy is like, to me, like they transcend what, they can do that effort like water, and that's scary. I haven't gotten to that point yet, but I'm on my way. You know what I'm saying? And for me, I think it's something that you can't ask for. You just have to keep working on what you do, and hopefully, you can go to the next level.
Is there, if you didn't move to Queens, right? There's a chance that you might not have met Pharoahe Monch when you did. Thinking back and knowing who came out of your neighborhood, is there an artist that possibly could have not fully replicated the impact Pharoahe Monch had on you, but kind of helped you in terms of the writing process? I guess a Brooklyn MC that could have been the Pharoahe Monch of Brooklyn, I guess, so to say.
I mean, as a writer, I don't think anyone could have impacted my life that way. Like Prince and Monch was different, man. Prisoners of War is an old record off their debut album. And wake up to the mathematics of an erratic rap, rejuvenator of rhyme, the sort of come automatic, poetical medical medicine for the cerebellum. This is Monch back in that record is like 85. That rhyme, he just tweaked it. But that's an old rhyme. So that tells you what these guys, you know, and Prince, I think, taught Monch how to be technical, and Prince was super technical. You know, I have to really get cerebral and think about Prince's verses and stuff like that, because these dudes was way ahead of their time. Then Ultra Mag was just like, I think Ultra Mag, no disrespect to them, but I think they was a little more advanced in the sense of they had one up because they both was Kool Keith, if that makes sense. Kool Keith was on his own, and Seb was, you know, producer and putting words together, but they was Kool Keith at the same time he was. Like, Kool Keith was even, you know, advanced. And you know, like I said, I was influenced. I wanted to sound like that. You know what I mean? And they was like, nah, you bugging. Like, be your own man. And I understand that. I understand that now.
You know, we couldn't leave this interview, and we're not going to soon, but we couldn't leave this interview with me not asking you about you know, the Digging the Crates crew. I mean, and as the collective, and,
right.
And I want to kind of, you know, throw out a few names for you, and kind of, if you could quickly talk about what do they bring to the table, I guess, that in studio and personally for you that others couldn't or don't. So I'll start with a Lord Finesse.
Right. Oh man, Lord Finesse is a musician. When I think of Lord Finesse, I think of Dr. Dre. When I think of Lord Finesse, I think of all the artists that came after him. Big L, Jadakiss, Nas. I mean, the list goes on, man. And hell of a businessman. Finesse is a hell of a businessman. Like, I made so much money with Finesse, man. It's stupid. Like, you know, this dude is just brilliant, man. That's the word for him, brilliant.
Next would be Fat Joe.
Joe is the epitome of brilliance. Like, today, look at the moves he's making. And I wish I had listened to Joe early on, because Joe could have been our manager. Joe is good at managing, putting together music. People don't understand what he did for Pun, man. Like, you know, and that's his story, but it's part of my story as well, because I'm a part of that circle. But Joe is a brilliant businessman as well. Like, you know, I seen him put that Pun album together. You know, I seen him tell me he's gonna, you know, in people's mind, he was the weak link. And it was like, look what he turned out to be. Like, you know, he's the biggest star out of the crew. And I think had L been alive, that's what he was chasing as well. But had L been alive, it would have been a whole different package in DITC. Because I think Joe would have circled back around by the time he was doing what he was doing now, and showed us, like, yo, if you want to stick around in the game, this is what you have to do. And I damn sure would have listened, because dude is a hell of a businessman.
Next up will be Diamond D.
Diamond is I don't want to say this without offense. Diamond is Kanye before Kanye.
Okay.
I don't know if that makes sense. Diamond is the guy that produced and rapped early on. A lot of people didn't do that. I don't recall too many people doing that at all. and he revolutionized some. Yo, my crew revolutionized a lot of shit, man. Diamond revolutionized what Kanye is today.
And lastly, two together, but Showbiz and AG.
Batman and Robin, like, them dudes had chemistry or have a chemistry like I've yet to see besides Billy and Fame. Two people that have a chemistry that's just like, you know, they don't have to look at each other. They don't have to talk to each other, but the music speaks for itself. Like, and I've seen that over and over again with these guys. I've seen them get mad at each other. I've seen them laugh. And I'm like, damn, I ain't even see them make this music. I come back the next day and, you know, they just got incredible music together. To me, they were supposed to be next. You know, they went through a lot, man, and I just seen them going to that next level, and then, you know, they went through their thing, you know, on the streets, and it kind of like halted their success, so to speak, at that time, you know, and in hindsight, looking back, I mean, it made them exactly who they are today as artists. But I believe Show and AG, Fat Joe, Big L were supposed to be superstars. And I think somebody like Finesse was gonna be Dre behind the scenes, and Fat Joe was both. You know, I tell people all the time when they try to say, yo, this one got hit, still making. I'm like, yo, no disrespect to 50, no disrespect to Jay, no disrespect to Nas, but we all come from the same class, and Joe's still putting out hit records today. That's unheard of, or almost. Puff ain't even putting out hit records.
You know, you talked to, as I mentioned, you talked to artists, you know, Apollo Brown, Buckwild, and they, you know, and the compliments they give you in terms of, you know, genius, you know, greatest, and all these things. What is debuting in '94 with, I mean, debut album in '94, but obviously going prior to that. When you hear, I guess, what are we, 25 years later or something? When you hear those compliments, what do they mean to you in terms of your legacy as an artist? And did you ever envision that 25 years later you would be getting these compliments from these incredible artists?
I didn't think about it, man. I never think about it because, yo, people throw around a lot of words, man, and a lot of things, and I'm grateful for it. But people say legends and stuff like that. Sometimes when it comes to me, it's like, yo, my legends are still alive. For me, legends are in the past tense, in a sense. You know, that's just my opinion. So, you know, I try to tell people, like, you know, I haven't done enough for people to even look at me in that sense. Yeah, I've done a lot of music, but it's people that's done way more than me and deserve, you know, a lot more than what people believe I've accomplished. And I get it, man. I get it. But you know, like I told you in the same breath a few minutes ago, somebody like Pharoahe has transcended, in my opinion, being called a rapper. Like, people still call us rappers sometimes, which to me is weird. I'm like, damn, man, I ain't been a rapper since I had my, you know, I got my first record deal. I'm an artist, you know what I'm saying? And I want y'all to take me serious. And you know, like I said, people like Monch, M.O.P today, you know, still prove that there's no age limits on it. talent is infinite if you, or if you have it. And I'm still working. You know what I'm saying? I'm still working at being the best writer that I can be, as long as I exist, as long as I'm breathing. And I don't want to be considered no legend or none of that. When my time is up, then we can talk that talk. But until then, I still got a lot of stuff to do, a lot more work to do.
So does that? I mean, so what does that? Does that mean? So what's next? I mean, what is next for you? I mean, are we working? Are you working on projects? Are you working on maybe singles, or is there something more that's coming up that obviously your peers like Pharoahe and M.O.P have are continuously going and busting. Are you working on some more stuff that we hopefully working on more stuff that we could expect?
Of course. Me and Apathy just started on the new Striker Part 2. I probably do another solo album and then call it I got 13 albums, solo albums. This is what people don't understand. Like, I haven't stopped working. Like, I put out 2 records back to back. Me and Joe did in the past couple of years. Like, prior to that, it was the Digging albums. It was my solo albums, 2 solo albums, 2 Digging albums. Prior to that, Debonair P in Australia, Apollo. I'm like, I'm not Griselda, you know what I'm saying? So I'm not gonna put out an album every week. No disrespect to them. You know what I'm saying? This is their era. This is what they do. But I can't, not that I can't do what they do, but people expect a certain kind of quality from me. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, I'm not knocking them, but they found their formula to do what they do and pump the records out real quick. And I fuck with them, excuse my French, but for me, I work a little bit more faster now, but I need that quality, man. People have to, my name is synonymous with quality. And, if me not putting out a record a week is not fast enough for you, then I don't know what to tell you, because I'm not going to do that. But, at the end of the day, for me, I'm going to do probably another solo album and call it a wrap. Solo wise, but I'm gonna definitely stay making music. I have other endeavors. Me and Apathy is a real group. We're a real group. People don't understand that, and I don't have nothing else to prove solo wise, but I just want to do I have something on my chest, on my heart, in a good way that I wanna do for this last album, man. The training in that whole thing within itself is doing this part 2 with Apathy. Like I said, App and Monch are my pedestal to reach, and so to speak. Like, them guys push me. And when you hear this new Striker stuff, me and App is going in. I'm a style on people so crazy, it's not funny.
So, he's the great OC. As always, it's an honor to talk to you on allhiphop.com. Presents the library with Tim Einenkel. Oh, as usual, man, thank you so much for taking the time today. I greatly appreciate it.
Nah, I appreciate you. And I caught Buckwild on, I believe, on his birthday. I seen his interview with you. And I love Buck. We ain't talk about Bucky being a genius he is and putting out all these records, but Buck pushes me every day to the point he gets on my goddamn nerves sometimes. But you know what I'm saying? Like, Buck is like that whole Griselda thing I was talking about. Buck is doing that right now. Like, he got 1,000 projects. I'm like, yo, what are you doing? He like working.
Is he? I mean, speaking of Buck, are you constantly, I guess, like using him as like your bulletin board, your blackboard in terms of like throwing ideas at him and seeing what he thinks of it? I mean, is he that ear that you usually use, even if it's a project not initially with him, but you know, someone that you could easily talk to artistically?
See, yeah, exactly. And that's one of the projects on the table right now. Like, you know, I don't want to talk about it too much, but
Right.
you know, I have to go back to we definitely had to circle back to each other and say, yo, what we gonna do? Like, we ain't gonna go out doing what we do. And, you know, he's busy. He's been busy, which is no excuse. You know, I've been sitting back and just, you know, I'm in another state now. So I'm relaxing and uh revamping and revitalizing, you know, or I have over the past year and a half. And yeah, I'm like, yo, you know, what's up, man? He like, yeah, we got to get this done. And but Buck is a pushy dude. Like, he's like, yo, you know, did you get that record done for me? And I'm like, man, I'm not doing the record. You know, like, I can't keep up with you at the moment. You know, I was supposed to be on one of his projects, and you know, he probably cursed me out in his head, but you know, he gave me a couple of weeks. I didn't get back to him. He called me like, yo, you got that record? I was like, it's not happening. Like, nah, like, I'm not moving on your time. And he's like, fuck you. And I'm like, fuck you. And talk to you later. Love you. Boom. You know what I'm saying? But dude is on this JO right now. So, you know, we're gonna do a project and close out our circle and keep it moving, see what happens from there. But yeah, like, me and Buck is showing a G part too. We
No.
definitely have an unwritten chemistry that's like no other.
My last Buckwild question then. Is there a track that he didn't produce for you, but a track that he produced that you either wish he gave to you, or you could have been like a fly on the wall watching him create that track?
Well, I don't know I definitely know it wouldn't have came out the way Rob did it, but you know, Woe was one of our digging, you know, that was on the table for the digging album. And you know, being in a group, everybody has to decide on the record. And I heard Woe, you know, the skeleton, the Woe, the beat, and I was like, damn, like, I think maybe two of us, you know, in the crew was like, yeah, and the rest was like, you know, it wasn't whack to them. They was just like, I don't hear. And I'm kind of glad that happened, because I don't think I would wrote a record like Rob. Like, what
Right.
Rob and Buck did together was like uncanny. Like, I've never seen that coming. And I damn sure when it did know, you know, whoa, you know what I'm saying? And it was a common saying. So that's the genius in artists, man. Like, to come up with to bring something to life like that. Like, that record right there, I wish I had.
So,
That's one of the records
OC,
Buck did. Yeah.
thank you, man. Thank you for being on allhiphop.com. Presents the Library with Tim Einenkel. Really appreciate your time, and thank you so much as always.
Likewise, man. Salute.